is up. That is not the balance I want. Wait for it. Also, not the balance I want. You'd think I'd have this down at this point. Shit. Well, we are live, so while I get my shit straight, let's mix it up. What's good, man?
What's up? What's up? What's up? As soon as I finally get in here, you know what I mean? What's good? What's up, Life's Cravy, everybody? What's good? About to talk this Mavs Cowboys, man. Been a week, but it's been felt like a long week. You know what I'm saying? Mavs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they got Wood. We was excited about that. Then they went and got dog JaVale McGee. Now, he kind of old to me, DDP, but you know what? He a center. He athletic. I like that. You know what I'm saying? We saw what he's done with these other teams. I like that little addition. You feel me? But in my head, I'm like, is this really it? Or is this over as far as free agency, dog? What's really going on with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely get the feeling that they're working on something. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Like we know that they have deficiencies with the backcourt. We know that the front court is a bit of a logjam, especially the center, which was kind of where we were last year, just obviously with a pretty different looking crew. So they're gonna have to move some things around. They still got pieces that they would like to move, and they're still looking for another wing that can give them a little bit of 3 and D because they don't want to put everything on Dodo and Bullock. So it would not surprise me in the least if they do that. I mean, the fact that you let Goran Dragic go, and that's something we were going to get into, but the fact that you let Goran Dragic go for a vet minimum to Chicago after he practically begged you yet again to come to
Right,
Dallas, and
right,
he fills a need that you have, like
right.
that tells me you got to be like working on something.
I
I
hope it.
wish I
I
had a
hope
more
it.
specific answer,
I
but
hope
I
DDP.
yeah, I wish I had a more specific answer of like, oh no, they're doing this.
Right.
I think that they're looking at a lot of different things right now, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that they're trying to get creative with some of these pursuits because some of these names that obviously we've been talking about, guys at like the mid-level exception, obviously they use that on JaVale basically, um, and now they've signed their draft pick, the second rounder Hardy. So you've essentially got that squared away, but you still have some needs, and the only way they can really make anything happen now is if they do dig in for some kind of trade. Now their names are still kind of floating around out there in terms of like Kyrie talk and KD talk, and I don't know what's going to come of any of that. I have a hard time believing either of those will
Right.
materialize, but that's not to say that they won't at least kind of throw their hat in the ring and try to put something together. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to find something else to do that still can be a sizable upgrade to the roster because they have needs. I mean, I liked some of what they've done. Obviously, the Wood trade I thought was great. Hardy for the
Mm-hmm.
value you got him, I think is
Mm-hmm.
very promising.
Mm-hmm.
But they got stuff to do, and not keeping Jalen, even if it's out of your control, like that hurts. You're going to have to find somewhere to address that kind of role now with your backcourt.
Well, I mean, let me ask you about a couple things, dog. First of all, Gordon Dragic, right? Why did that happen? I mean, you seen how close Luka was. He just played in these little European games and things of that nature with him, and we
Mm-hmm.
seen the relationship. You could have got it for the cheap, dog. Why you think that didn't happen? Especially like just like a second kind of go around that they could have scooped him and just kind of weather the storm with the Brunson thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they've had ample opportunities in recent years to get Dragic. Like there was Luka's rookie year, I believe it was, a deal with Miami that was being discussed and ultimately fell through. And from context after the fact, we found out it's because basically Miami didn't know who they were dealing with in the Dallas front office. They were having some discussions with Donnie Nelson, and then they were having different conversations with Harlebo. So yeah, very very disjointed there in Miami. Basically, the confusion was whether Dragic was going to be included in a trade, and one of the guys in that trade that Dallas was going to get was Derrick Jones Jr., who they were interested in. Like even just this summer, they were interested in him. So it's like, oh yeah, no, you probably should have done that trade, added Dragic, who Luka was close to, but for some reason Dallas didn't like that. It fell through. The trade collapsed, and then Dragic stayed there another year, went on then to Toronto, and the Mavs were like, well, we don't want to give up assets for him. Why would we give up assets? I mean, he's 35 years old.
Right.
We'll wait for the buyout. Surely they're going to buy out. They don't want him. They're not in that position to make a run. And eventually a buyout came, but it was like, okay, buyout came. But by that point, Dallas had done something at the deadline to get out from under KP, and now they had Dinwiddie. So then they're like, yeah, we kind of have that second unit ball handler now. So sorry, Goran, I know we talked about this for like a year, but we don't have a need, I guess, for you. So he goes to Brooklyn, and then he's like, all right, here we go. Like, Luke and I want to play together. I will take a vet minimum now. It's not even about
Right.
money anymore.
Right. Right.
And Dallas, for whatever reason, still was like, nah, vet minimum, go ahead to Chicago. That's why I
Do
feel
you,
like something's got to be going on.
do
Like,
you
I don't
think?
think he was bullshitting when him and Luka at the press conference were laughing about, like, oh, we'll tell you July 1st.
All right, so you say you think there might be something going on, and or do you think Jason Kidd is just like, that's just not my type of player I want to bring in right now?
Well, so there's an interesting kind of discussion there as well. And I guess I can throw up the change up graphic for that. So the Mavericks obviously have been undergoing quite an overhaul this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we complained about how stagnant they were and they just kept trying to cultivate continuity by bringing the same group of guys back. And I've been saying until I was blue in the face for at least the last 2.5 years, you can't just keep bringing the same guys back for the most part and asking them to reach greater heights. And I think that really capped out this year, getting to the Western Conference Finals. I don't think there's another level for any of these guys not named Luka to reach necessarily. Maybe Dorian can a little further, but like Maxi, I already think Maxi's hit that ceiling, and I think he's kind of on the backwards drop back now. Just some of these parts, like, you can't keep reasonably doing that. And to their credit, I think Dallas understands that. And so I think now that they've had a year, they're kind of trying to reassess and rebuild. It's not Carlisle's team anymore. And now it's just a matter of, okay, what's it going to look like? Well, Jason Kidd's bringing in his guys. If you look at the coaching staff that he's brought in, we mentioned Luka's coach, Igor, going to Brooklyn. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not his guy. That was a Luka guy, essentially, even though in the NBA, Luka hadn't played with him. But all the assistants that Kidd is bringing over are from his time in LA. JaVale McGee, he won a championship with Kidd as an assistant with the Lakers. So you see all these different moves that they're making and guys that they're bringing in. You look at the parts that have been going out. Boban getting traded. Obviously, Boban and Luka, very, very much good friends. Jalen Brunson, again, I don't put that on Dallas because they for reports were willing to go all the way to the 5 for 125 to keep him, and it just ended up not happening. But nevertheless, Luka's probably second best friend on the team, next to maybe only Dorian Finney-Smith. It's a good
Mm-hmm.
thing you extended Dorian, because you could look at it and say, like, of the 4 guys Luka was closest with on the team, 3 of them have left now in the span of a year. Like,
Right.
that's pretty substantial. Now, I'm not saying like, oh, Luka's going to be pissed, but you look at that and you look at the fact that, okay, now again, they've been begging. Him and Goran Dragic have both been very clear for years they want to play together in the NBA. Goran has literally said he wanted his last season to be playing with Luka at least. And you have a need there, you have the ability, everything seems to be lining up. But yeah, I don't think that Goran necessarily is. It's not that I don't think he's a kid guy. I just think it's a situation where they felt like, okay, well, we have a greater need, and we're not going to pacify Luka here and just bring in his buddy. We're going to see if we're going to try and stay aggressive in these trade markets, see what we can find out, and see if we can, make something happen. And if they're going to, I feel like it's going to take a 3-team deal. They might have to get really creative to make something like that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very true that the changes they're making are very much in line with what Jason Kidd looks for in a roster, and not as much worrying about like, well, what does Luka think, or how does Luka vibe with this guy? Like, you should do it that way, but it is also a little bit of a risk in the game today to not run things as much by your superstar and kind of work off of the framework of what they want with little changes around the edge.
Do you agree with that?
I think given what happened with the Mavericks this year
Mm-hmm.
and the job that Kidd and company did, I
Mm-hmm.
think they've earned the patience and the opportunity to do this thing. You know what I mean? Like
Okay. Yep.
they basically said like, okay, look what we did with Rick's team. You saw that Rick couldn't even get out of the first round with this. Look
Mm-hmm.
what we did with Rick's team. And now watch what we can do if we build the team the way we want it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the Wood deal, brilliant. Like I think that was a brilliant addition. Uh, Getting Hardy at the value you did,
Right.
great. You were willing to take him at 26. You basically got everything you could have wanted out of that situation. And JaVale McGee's a solid addition too. Like
Right.
I had a really interesting stat. So based on last season, the 2022 regular season rebound percentages, this is based on the current Mavericks roster. JaVale McGee, 22.7% rebounding percentage, like of all opportunities when he's in the game. Christian Wood, 18%. Luka, 14.3%. We said that you can't have Luka being your top rebounder, which he's been having to be now the last basically year and a half at least, if not 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now you got two guys that just snatch boards by the handful.
Mm-hmm.
That's really big, especially when, because of Wood's skill set, you could feasibly play him at the four. Like
Mm-hmm.
JaVale McGee, I just realized what felt like it was missing. I was like, man, where's my chill background music, man? Um, uh, Christian Wood basically.
Oh, your sound went out a little bit.
You what?
Oh, there you go. You're
Oh,
good.
okay. Christian Wood basically saying like, dude, I'm cool with going in at the four and being alongside JaVale McGee, who when he was acquired basically said like, my expectation is to start. And it's like, ooh, okay, off the bench. I love the signing.
That's what I was just about to ask you, dog. Like,
yeah,
he wants to start. I like you coming off more the bench thing. I'm feeling you with that. I don't want JaVale McGee as our starting center.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a basically 3 for 20 deal. If you look at how it's structured with the MLE and what you had to use to sign Hardy, Mavs CBA had a really good breakdown of this on Mavs Moneyball. Basically, it looks more like it's like a 3 for 17 for JaVale McGee. So you are spending a fair bit of money invested in him. I think coming off the bench would be better, but I also recognize that like because Wood's ability to stretch the floor doesn't clog things up too much. Like yeah, you got a 6'10" and a basically 7-footer there.
Right.
But at the same time, Wood's ability to stretch the floor and particularly shoot threes at, again, 39% was what he shot last year. That's going to open some things up for you. Like your spacing won't be hampered too much. It's just a matter of what does your second unit look like, because I got to think Dwight Powell's going to be moved. I think Maxey is very much a candidate for that as well. Bertans, I think, because of the size of his contract, for sure is going to be something they're looking at. Like they still have several pieces that they're not easy to trade on their own, which is why I said if they can get into a 3-team conversation somehow, they can open up some options for them to make some things happen. But I don't know what that looks like. So JaVale in the starting unit, I like what he brings. He's been very good the last few years. He's got 3 rings to his name now. Granted, 2 of those were with the Warriors, so not shocking on those. But, you know, he got one with the Lakers too. So he's proven himself. People might remember like when he was here before and kind of judge him based on that. But like he was coming off like 2 or 3 years in a row, like injured and beat to hell before he got to Dallas. And as he said, he only played like, man, what was it, like 26 games here? Like he didn't get to play a lot. He was signed mid-season, and injuries just kind of kept him from getting there. And he had said like, you know, I changed kind of my diet and my how I took care of my body and everything, and I was able to kind of get my career back on track and find a new level when people thought I was kind of done, which to be fair, I kind of thought he was done after his swim with the Mavericks. But
you're right.
He's been very good the last few years, and he still is probably the most athletic rim rocker that Luka's played with to date, other than maybe now Christian Wood. So you gotta love what they're giving Luka in that respect. It's just a matter of, and he actually does bring defense unlike Wood. So I like what they're doing. I just want to see, I want to make sure that they're not completely upending the cart of what was a very good offense for them last year. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to
Yeah, right.
blow it up and like, all right, let's rebuild and start from scratch. Like, nah, I kind of want to keep some of what worked from that. Like, I understand you got to alter it given the new personnel, but let's not get too crazy here.
Right. From the perspective of, okay, we get it. Let's not forget what got us here. We was a very good 3-point shooting team. We saw how Luka likes to penetrate, kick it out to the guys that can create space with the 3-point shot. So we know, don't move too far away from that, because that's what got us there. We understand with the JaVale McGee and the Christian Wood thing. But yeah, I'm gonna ask you something, big dog. Like, we was talking, like, I know we out on the Kyrie thing, but I ain't gonna lie, man. Could they feasibly, any kind of way, get Kevin Durant? Because I ain't gonna lie, bro. Me and you talked about this, dog.
Mm-hmm.
How that would be a great addition, and I know maybe the history with that, but bro, would there be any kind of way that could happen? Because that would be the thing. That would be the thing. And who do you think they would have to give up if that happened?
Dude, if you were to try and get into the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, first of all, anything is on the table not named Luka, and
right. They gotta give up like 5 people.
And like multiple picks too.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to be in some
crazy.
kind of multi-team trade. I mean, like,
crazy.
I know the speculation right now is kind of crazy, like, around Durant. Like, initially, a couple of weeks ago, they were saying it would take like a historic trade package or something, to which I thought, like, you're talking about a guy that's missed at least 25 games in 3 straight years, a guy who's blown his Achilles, and who's like, what, I think 34 now. Like, no doubt, if you have him, it's instant contender status. But if you have him, it's because your assumption is, okay, Luka at 24 will not have to turn to Durant as like, okay, you're Batman, I'm Robin. Luka will set him up and make life easy for him. But the whole point is you still have your number 1 guy, and Durant is being the number 2 guy. Like, that is the best number 2 option you could have. But Durant's never had to do that. Even when he went to Golden State, he usurped Steph Curry. So that's a fair point. But as far as like hypothetical trades, Phoenix has been one that Durant has been linked to a lot. Miami's been thrown out there a couple times, but like with Phoenix, they were saying, like, even if it were 3 first-round picks, Cam Johnson, oh man, I wish I could remember all the pieces they were talking about. It was like Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 3 first-round picks, and another starter of theirs, I think, or at least heavy rotation player. They're like, that wouldn't be enough to get Brooklyn to move. Like, Brooklyn, I think they're going to move Durant, but I think this is going to drag out for a bit. I don't think anything is imminent. And
yeah, because they know, and because, just like they said, to me, this is 2 straight times, DDP, the Nets have had colossal dumb moves. We saw back in the day when they wanted the Paul Pierce and the Kevin Durant thing, and they wanted to bring all that back. You remember that, when they wanted to bring all that
Pierce,
back?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, yeah, this might be the new big 3 again, and whatever. And it failed badly. Like, it was bad. So now you have a situation where they do it again. And I feel like the Nets this time are like, we ain't in no hurry to trade, because we're going to get the house. Because we done lost a lot with this Kyrie thing. We know he gonna probably be leaving. So we want the house. So we gonna get everything back. So we ain't just gonna let on this. Like you said, we gonna sit on this until we get dumb collateral.
Yeah, and I mean that's just kind of the sticking point here is, like, if you look at what it is that they've invested, they put everything on the table to get that big 3. And the fact that you had like 16 games of all 3 of them together, Harden, Durant, Irving, that already is a colossal failure.
Right.
Then Durant and Irving only played like 47 games together. Vince Carter and Akeem Olajuwon played more games together.
That's wild.
Yeah. Like it is the most colossal failure I think in NBA history of a super team, and I don't know really how they bounce back from it. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if they try to demand this huge thing, because Durant signed a massive new deal with Brooklyn last year. He's 1 year into
Right.
a 4 year. I think it was a 4 year deal, and maybe it was a five. I don't remember. But a huge extension with them, and he's already looking to force his way out. And there are reports of multiple other star players around the league who have been trying to reach out to Durant and kind of get him on board with like forcing his way somewhere, and he's apparently radio silent right now, according to that. So I don't know. As far as Miami as a consideration, he said, or his camp rather, said the only way he would consider Miami is if he was playing with at least two All Stars. To
Hmm.
which you look at it then and say, well, then how are they acquiring you?
Right.
Like, if you want at least another pseudo big three, and again, if you're talking three All Stars, you're basically saying a legitimate big three. If you're saying you got to have at least three All Stars on your team, yourself included, then you're not going to have a lot of options for those teams to create the space to go get you. Your contract is part of what makes it so difficult to move you right now. Is like Brooklyn basically had a huge multi-year investment in you that kind of got shot to hell. So now it's like, how do we rebound this? How do we adjust? One thing that, from the Mavericks' perspective, that was kind of toyed with and speculated on was the possibility of Christian Wood still being involved in a subsequent deal, because people pointed to like the Mavs online shop and everything that sells their jerseys
Mm-hmm.
stopped listing Christian Wood a couple days ago, and as of I think it was like 5:45 or 6 o'clock Central Time today,
Uh-huh.
he is back listed in the shop now, and they actually had a social media thing from their shop as well, kind of rolling out the jerseys again and basically making it like, oh, it's official, but it's like they've been selling it. So I don't know why they disappeared from the shop. I don't think it's necessarily that like, oh, he's in these discussions and they're just kind of like, let's hold off here, because I mean, it's speculation unless you're
Mm-hmm.
deep in those conversations, in which case we should be hearing something from some of the Mavs insiders. I don't think there's anything really there. So it's possible that Wood, if you're going to have to get really creative in one of these deals, it's possible that McGee does give you a little bit of leverage, even though, again, McGee's like 34 as well, I think. So, he's not 26 like Christian Wood.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that he's still going to be fodder for a subsequent move. But if you're moving him, I got to think Dallas is getting real aggressive and swinging big. I don't think there's any way that they get in on the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, because even if you had a 3-team deal, like look at the guys that you could move out that you would be okay with parting with. Again, if it's Durant, then it's anybody not named Luka you're going to be fine with. But it's like Maxey just got guaranteed his $9 million this year, just got guaranteed, I think, yesterday. You have Tim Hardaway Jr., who's making about 19, I want to say, 18, 19 million this year. You have Bertans, who's like 16 million. You have Dwight Powell, that's like 11 million. Like you have, or 13 million maybe. You have a lot of these guys who have kind of bloated contracts and whose production doesn't really point to that. Like you could say maybe Hardaway's is the most movable in it, but he was having a bit of a struggle last year, like with the new changes and everything, and his role was kind of reducing before he broke his foot. So it's really hard to point to and say definitively like what his value is, and the fact that you're still looking at and saying, oh, he's probably your most valuable asset, unless you're gonna part with someone else like Bullock or Dorian, which I don't think there's any way you part with Dorian. But unless you were going to do that, I don't know. I just don't know that there's enough Dallas could give that would actually interest teams. You could make the money work, but that would interest teams enough for them to be like, oh, by the way, we're going to be the ones taking Durant back in this. As we're pushing out these bit pieces, we're going to be the ones bringing that in. Plus, if Durant really wants the 2 All-Stars thing, Dallas doesn't meet that criteria.
Right. Well, let me ask you because I'm looking at some of the people, in the chat. They got some good thoughts. Damian Lee, one of the people, and then just Wow Wim Tim came up with something. I want to get your thoughts on that before we, kind of pivot on them Cowboys in a minute. And
Yep.
me and you talked about this before. Colin Sexton. And now
Yep.
I'm out here in Ohio. So, I see the Cavs and I seen how he played. Aggressive player. He's a firecracker of offense.
Mm-hmm.
And me, you talked about that. Do you think there's any smoke fire with that Colin Sexton thing? And would you want Colin Sexton coming to the Mavs?
He would definitely bring some value to them. Like last season, he averaged something like 16 points. From what I understand, you still have some kind of health issues with him. Like, let me look. How many games? Yeah, he barely played last year, man. He played like 11 games. Sheesh. And then 60, 65. So since his rookie year, he has not. That's the only year he's played a full season. Other than that, he's always missed about 20 games, it looks like. And then last year missed basically the whole season. So that's really tough sledding. To add a player like that, yeah, you're adding a guy that can slash and get to the rim and can score, but I don't know if that fits with your need. That would feel like trying for an immediate response to losing out on Brunson, but I don't know if that backcourt locks you down and gives you the kind of defensive prowess that you're hoping for. Because you would think, and to be fair, neither did Jalen. Jalen wasn't a great defender. Jalen was at best an average defender. His size made him usually a below average defender, but he at least had a high basketball IQ that allowed him to kind of minimize that a little bit. So I tend to think that whoever Dallas wants to pair in the backcourt with Luka, they're probably going to try and find someone that can hold their own defensively a little bit. And I don't know that necessarily fits Sexton. He would be an exciting player, and you always like having those athletes around Luka, but I don't think it's the best option. Plus, he's restricted, if I'm not mistaken, so Cleveland can always just match.
Right. But I don't know if they are, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people were talking about them moving in a different direction besides him, and especially with the building of their team. And then he went out and they still played very well without him. That's where, it was talked about where he might be moved because the team was seeing how it could work with him. And when he was hurt, they still were, as far as gelling as a team. So kind of see how that happens. I see a lot of people in here talking about Clarkson. That wouldn't be able to happen. That wouldn't happen, would it?
It would be, again, he was great in that first round series. It would be a fantastic addition, but he's a great spark plug off the bench. I don't know what it would take, but I don't think that's going to be an option. I haven't heard his name floated at all.
Right.
I saw Christopher Jones mentioning Jaden Hardy. They're not going to do that with a 19-year-old that just turned 19 this week. They're not going to put him in that position.
They better not.
And even if he was ready to step in and have like a solid year, do you feel comfortable going into a postseason with him having to play a significant role again at 19 years old? No. I mean, just no. Hardy is going to be one of those guys who, I mean, you could look at Hardy in a lot of ways. You could say like Ricky Lito was one of the more fascinating, potentially super high ceiling guys that Dallas was able to bring in recent years. And coming in under Rick, he just never got that chance to play or develop or do anything. And he flamed out, as a lot of young guys do under Rick. And so with Hardy, he has sort of a similar vibe to that, but he's actually with a staff that I think is going to give him opportunities and let him develop. But I think he's a 2 to 3 year project to really get to the point where he is a sizable piece of your rotation. Like, I think he's going to kind of be, he'll get opportunities sort of like Josh Green got opportunities through much of last year. He'll get these burns and stretches here and there, but you won't have a whole lot of consistency with it, because I think it's just going to be him getting acclimated, and he's going to have to find that comfort with a 3-point stroke, because he's got good technique, good form, but he's gotta find a little bit of rhythm and consistency with that, because that's going to be his best weapon in his arsenal, I think. So if he can bring that along and kind of adapt his game a little bit, then they can find a good role for him. But it's not going to be this year. It's not going to be this year that he's in there and he's playing like a starting backcourt role with Luka, or playing heavy minutes in a postseason run of any kind.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with that, big dog. But I will definitely say I am excited for him. I think you saw the video, and I seen the video where they were doing practice and he was hitting that 3-point shot. He was looking wet, dog. He was looking wet when he was hitting it. And
yeah, it's practice though.
I know it's practice, but I know it's practice. Like I said, we talking about practice. I get it, but I'm just saying, from what we saw when he played in the G League and the body of the potential that he could be having in the future, I'm just saying I like the pick where we got it at, and I like the future ahead for him. That's what I'm basically saying. I don't want to throw him in the fire like we talked about last week, but I definitely like the potential, and I love the pick, and I hope something materializes out of that, because I think he can definitely be a great addition down the line.
Yeah. Wow, I'm Tim has a good question on this. I don't have an answer for it, but it is worth calling out. He says, why no Josh Green in Summer League? I'd like to see him show out. I didn't understand it last year either, because last year he went and played in the Olympics with Australia. And by played in the Olympics, I mean he watched from the bench, and he missed the Summer League opportunity. And I get it. A guy wants to go play for his country. Fine. I get it. But he didn't play. Like, yeah, I get it. He had to have had some kind of role in the practices and things like that. But you look at it and it just felt like a real missed opportunity to develop here, especially with the new coaching staff and everything like that. So I thought that was kind of a miscalculation, but I also am not going to tell a guy he can't do that in that circumstance. But why he's not this year, I don't know. It's going to be going into his third NBA season, so maybe...
And he needs that work.
He needs the work, because he still hasn't... I mean, he barely saw the court at all as a rookie. So really, in a way, last year was almost still like rookie year extended, you know? So I think he needs the work. Why he's not there, I don't have an explanation for it. I think it's a missed opportunity that he's not, since his actual rookie year, done anything like that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see. One last thing. How do you feel about Tim Hardaway Jr., dog? I mean, what's your thoughts on him? Do you like him going forward with the team?
As we're talking about the Mavs getting creative and making something happen, like I said, he's your best asset. Like, he's going to be your best option for making something happen. He's your closest to viable piece. He's shown you he can be good. A couple of years ago in the postseason against the Clippers, he was sensational for every game but Game 7, it seemed. But it's a complicated fit for him. He can create his own shot fine. He is very much a streaky scorer. He'll either shoot you into games and carry the offense kind of for you, or he will be 1 of 12 and still jacking up pull-up threes and things like that. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you gotta be a little more situationally aware here. I get it, but it's not love-hate. It's more like love kind of side-eye a little bit, like, this guy, like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, it's that sort of thing. So I was generally glad when he re-signed with Dallas, but now I'm kind of looking at it and saying, like, all right, well, we just saw what they were able to build in his absence and what they were able to accomplish as a team even without him. Now, if he was there in the postseason, I think it would have helped a lot, but you know, I don't know if he necessarily fits into the role of what they're trying going forward. I think what Dinwiddie kind of brings to the table lessened the need for him a little bit. Had they kept Jalen, I would have said there's no chance you keep Hardaway. But now that Jalen's gone, you kind of have to look at it and say, like, okay, if we move on from Hardaway, who's our scorer coming off the bench? Because Dinwiddie's probably going to be in your starting lineup right now, right? It's either Hardaway or Dinwiddie starting, whichever of them you want coming off the bench. And I don't know what I don't know what firepower you would really feel comfortable with if you don't have that second unit scorer there. So I think he's probably going to be one of the pieces that still gets moved. I still have a gut feeling he gets moved.
Yeah, well, we gonna find out, man. Like I said, I hope it's at the end of the day that they need another scoring piece. We talked about that scoring forward. I don't know if it's out there, but I hope somehow, some way they can find that and make that an addition for these Mavs. But we're
Yep.
gonna see, dog. It's gonna be an interesting kind of summer because as I looked at some of the comments as we kind of pivot, we don't know these guys yet because this is kids' first year. So we're still kind of on the job, on the fly, kind of seeing how they're moving. Like you said, how they're building the likeness and the image. Is it more
Yep.
in the kid style or the Luka? So we haven't seen it. So this is going to be an interesting summer to see how it all kind of plays out. You know what I'm saying, with the free agency and things of that nature.
Yeah, it absolutely seems like it's the kid image at this point, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think it's something that you got to have a
Keep an
lot
eye
of
on.
confidence. Yeah, you got to
Mhm.
have a lot of confidence in your coach and your philosophy to do that. Because if it goes off the rails and you've kind of messed with certain chemistries, then your star player is probably not going to be happy that he feels like you went against whatever he wanted, or the kind of thing he was comfortable with, and then messed things up. If you take a step back, we talked about that. If you take a step back, it's not going to go over well.
It's a major step back if we take a step back on this one. So
Yep.
let's just pray, hope all is well. You feel me?
One quick note on the Hardy thing, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that they've signed him. They
Mm-hmm.
did learn their lesson. His contract will make him a restricted free agent afterwards. They did not repeat the Jalen mistake. So at the very least, they learned their lesson. They structured it in a way where he will be at the least a restricted free agent, I think, after year 4. And they'll have that opportunity to at least match.
Yeah, smart moves, man, and way to kind of grow up on that one on the fly. We learned
Yeah.
our lesson on Brunson that we ain't gonna do it again. So that's good. I like that because that gives you hope that they're seeing mistakes early and quick to make amends from it, or quick to try to make it right. Even when we look at Christian Wood and even get JaVale McGee, I feel like they were still trying to make it right or get things together too.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's in kids maybe kind of image, I feel like they're still saying, hey, we're trying to appease you, Luka, because we're trying to get some athleticism in here for you as well, still trying to keep some shooters for you.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You probably have to chop that up a bit, Mr. Ben Price. I think it came in here. You probably have to rewind that back because we already talked about that Clarkston thing, man. But we getting ready to talk about some Cowboys football, dog, because training camp is right around the corner. They're hitting around, I think, the 27th EDP of July is when they get touchdown to Oxnard, and then it really starts getting hot and heavy that first week of August. So it's right here, dog, and we're gonna be talking about the secondary, and I think that's very interesting talking about this secondary because the number one guy everybody's got their bullseye on is Trevin Diggs, obviously.
Yep.
But when we talk about these cornerbacks, that Kelvin Joseph thing is the one thing that still that's sticking out to me because he is a major key this year. I don't know what happens with him on suspension because we know about the incident. We ain't gonna go over that again. We know about the incident. If he doesn't get suspended, I'm wondering how that dynamic is going to go because he was a second-round draft pick last year, and last year's rookie year was just kind of a wash. He needs to come in here this year and establish himself. If the Cowboys secondary, in my opinion, wants to get leaps and bounds better, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if he's available, he's got to have a strong year because, like you said, second round draft pick investment in him. He didn't really get a lot of burn last year. I think part of that was he was dealing with, I want to say it was a hamstring for a time.
Yeah, had the hamstring injury.
Yeah, so that was obviously a contributing factor. But for a guy in your second round, you want to get him more opportunity and more looks and reps and everything. In his first year, you're really looking in your first 3 rounds for guys that can come in and be at least part of your rotation. So for him to not get as much opportunity was a little bit concerning for me. I kind of wondered there. Like, I see the physical traits and some of the tools that he needs to be successful, but you got to be able to be available and to make it translate. So he needs a big year if he's able to play this year, especially given everything he's got kind of hanging over his head.
Mm-hmm.
He's really got to show out and say, like, okay, you want to put up with whatever headache is going to play out from the rest of this saga. Like, again, not getting into the moral stuff of anything, but like, if you're going to invest in him, he's got to be able to show you that like his play is enough for you to want to keep him around. And when I say that, I'm talking from the Jones standpoint, which is always just like, does he make the team better? Yes, then we'll put up with the headache. That's
Right.
about the long and short of it. As long as they believe you can help the team, they will keep you around. How many guys have they brought in with very questionable backgrounds or incidents that were still ongoing and hanging over their heads? Like, it's kind of old hat for them, as long as they think that you can help the team. So if he can be available and show out, then he'll offer them some real opportunities to to have a pretty solid secondary. I think this year, I mean, they had a pretty solid secondary last year too, but I think it'll be a chance to kind of prove some people wrong, because I think people expect that unit to kind of take a step back this year. But the potential is there as long as you're able to get good contributions from him, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like the potential is there, especially when you got year two of Dan Quinn. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the way the Dallas Cowboys created turnovers. Obviously, we're probably thinking Trevin Diggs ain't going to get 10, 11 interceptions again in another year. We're not believing that, and we understand that. But that doesn't mean the defense is going to be worse. I think with year two with Dan Quinn, the way he's took over, I think that's going to be a good thing. And then even the secondary coaching with Al Harris, he stepped his game up, you saw even with Diggs. And I just think that it could be better. Jordan Lewis had a career type year. Anthony Brown had a career year across the board. Pass defenses, yards given up, passer rating against. He was a solid tackler in the game. I think he had like 3 to 4 interceptions. So he had a career season
too.
Yeah. So he had a career season. So when we're looking at that dynamic, that's why I keep on honing in. And I'm going to ask you about another player. And we're going to talk about another player. But that's why I'm honing in on the Kelvin Joseph thing, DDP, because we saw what Diggs did. And I don't care what everybody's talking about with, oh, Diggs gave up all these yards and you see all these videos. That doesn't matter, bro, because at the end of the day, this is what I want to say about the Trevin Diggs thing. I like Diggs. I picked him when he came out of college, right? I picked him in the second round. That's who I wanted. When I went back in his history, he played more receiver than corner in high school. He was a receiver, okay?
Yeah.
He didn't play corner. He was an all-state receiver. And when he went to Alabama, and I made this tweet, when he went to Alabama, he did not play full-time corner until he became a senior at Alabama, a full-time corner, okay? So you have a kid who just now, not even just now, his ceiling is crazy. You feel me? Because that's one full year at Alabama. He cried when he got changed to cornerback. He cried. But Mick Saban said, this is probably the best opportunity for you to get to the league. And he was right, because you see the traits of how he can play on the ball. When I watch him, he looks like a receiver playing corner. But you got to look at 14 interceptions in your first 2 years in the NFL, and you're still a baby at the position. I don't care what anybody's saying. 31 other teams would take him in a heartbeat, and he's trending up. You feel me? So I'm not tripping off no Trevin Diggs. What they talking about, does he need to get better? Yes, as far as his coverage, his press coverage ability, I believe he needs to he was the top rated corner, but I feel like he needs to get more handsy with the guys and redirect, because I feel like that's going to help him. But if we're talking about, go ahead.
Who's the former Kansas City cornerback you compare him to? It's a really good
Marcus Peters.
Yes, I was blanking on the name, but that's very much that's a very apt comparison, because I think the ball skills and everything's there. It's like, you will see him get burned, but you will be rewarded in so many other ways where he makes these big plays, these big momentum shifting plays. And Diggs does that in spades. He doesn't just take the ball away; he takes it into the end zone. Like that's a thing that doesn't get near enough mention. Even if people like somehow want to try and discredit 11 interceptions, like, all right, how many direct touchdowns is he giving himself? You know, he's not just giving the ball back to the offense and then it's like, all right, well, what did the offense do with it? No, he's literally putting it in the end zone himself for 6 points at least. So that's a special trait not many guys can do. Not many cornerbacks come out of a season saying I had multiple touchdowns. The fact that he had like 4 or something last year was ridiculous.
And it's crazy because why would you be mad at that and why would you hate on that as fans or whatever? This dude gives you an opportunity every time on defense to get the ball back and score points. That is not, you don't see that in the NFL. You don't see cornerbacks in the NFL that can give you that. So they can hate and diss all they want, but they're crazy for that. And I hope he tells, he's always keep doing this, DDP. He's always doing this. I hope he shuts up that noise and takes his game to another level. Obviously, let's not expect 11 interceptions, but that doesn't mean his game is even better this next year. And I think it's going to happen just because of his mentality. But as I was saying, Kelvin Joseph, I feel like, is the key to that, because if he can come in, I want him to be the starting opposite corner of Trevin Diggs, and then you can throw the Anthony Brown in the slot, because those last few games when you had Kelvin Joseph on the outside and Anthony Brown in the slot, that was some good juju that was working there. And I saw the ability of Kelvin Joseph. You saw aggressive in the run game. He's sticky in a corner. I don't feel like he's the playmaker like the Diggs, but I feel like he's more the body, physical, sticky corner that's going to make it difficult for you. And I feel like that's a good trade-off. And then if you got Anthony Brown in that slot and you still got a Jordan Lewis coming behind that, that's a good thing in my opinion. I think it gets better this season.
Yeah, when you're sticky tack and you're 6'1", $190, like that's really good. That's a really good weapon to have in a cornerback. So he's got the fundamentals and the ability and the size and everything. It's just what we have to see kind of what that availability is going to look like, be it if he has any other health nagging injuries, anything that keeps him out for an extended period, or if he faces a long suspension. So we're gonna have to see. It's weird how long it's been up in the air at this point.
Right.
I think.
Right.
Like, I feel like something should have happened if it was going to happen on this front.
Right. Well, let's hope, because we all know how Roger Goodell is with these Cowboys. So let's kind of hope for the best. Now, there was another second-year player I kind of want to talk about. And Nahshon Wright. Yeah, Nahshon Wright from Oregon State. Now, we actually had his mother on our show, the Final Word. So, and it was good talking to her, because listening to her, she was saying that a lot of people not giving him a chance, but she was saying the same thing kind of on the lines of Trevin Diggs, is that he played receiver more in his career than he played cornerback.
Yeah,
she was even saying that give him a chance, because that's going to take him a long way. When you watch him, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that. And he's long, lanky. I love that 6'4" size. Do you think he has a chance this year to crack that lineup and play any kind of significant snaps? Or is this one of these situations where you maybe kind of drafted him for the potential and then he just stays there 2 or 3 years, kind of like the Reggie Robinson thing? You don't figure out position for him, and next thing you know, he's gone.
I think he absolutely has the potential, and I think they will give him a bit of a closer look this year. We've both been a little on the fence about kind of where this Cowboys team stands in relation to last season. As far as talent, they've definitely taken a step back, but whether or not they can still cobble together like a 10-win season and win the division or something, that remains to be seen. But I do think that they will have more of an opportunity to give him a good look this year. And so if he's going to step out and show something, I think this is going to be, it's not going to be the only thing. It's not like however this year goes, I think he's like, oh, if he doesn't break out, it's not going to happen. He'll get another look, the following year as well, I would assume. But I think this is going to be a bigger opportunity for him than he's seen so far. I mean, same thing with Joseph, but like Joseph was more injury last year, what didn't give him that look. So I expect he'll get some reps and some opportunities. Whether or not he's able to actually capitalize on those and make them translate into something that carves out a nice role for him in kind of the depth chart and rotation at that position, I don't know, but I think the opportunities will be there, and so he'll get a chance to show that he can actually apply that freakish frame that he has. Again, cornerback at 6'4" is crazy. Just the potential of what that brings to the table. The ceiling's definitely there. He's got the traits. It's just, can he bring it all together? Can he have the mental game of it and actually capitalize on it and carve himself out a nice role?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting battle. Who would you take between they always have this debate, and I want to ask you, who would you take between, if you had a choice, Anthony Brown or Jordan Lewis?
Brown. And to be
Why?
clear, before last season, one of my pieces for Blogging the Boys actually had Brown listed as a potential on the bubble veteran, like a surprise name on the bubble for camp. That ended up not being my best prediction. He had a career year, and I think part of that,
I did too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I did too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, part of that was just like, I looked at what he had done in the years leading up to that, and I'm like, he's got position versatility, and that served him well. But it served him well when we didn't have a lot of depth at the position. Now we've got these young bucks coming up. We have a really nice cornerback. I did call a huge breakout year for Diggs, so I at least had part of my position analysis good there.
Right.
That was one of the first pieces I wrote for Blogging the Boys, was calling for Diggs to be ascending to one of the top turnover producing cornerbacks in the league. Now he ended up racing past that expectation as well, but nevertheless, I thought that with the young talent they had coming up at corner, that Brown's case for he's kind of the quote unquote grizzled veteran with position flexibility, and that's kind of what's allowed him to hang around. I was like, well, now it's not as much of a sure thing. So I thought he might be forced out. But as we said, he had a great year. There was really only one, maybe two bad games, one of which was week 1. Because I remember after week 1, Dan Quinn was like, it's actually not as bad as it looked. And we're like, dog, he gave up 9 catches for 137 yards and a touchdown. He got scorched. And it was by Brown, right? It was the former
Antonio
Steeler,
Brown. Yep,
yeah,
Antonio Brown
obliterated him. And it was like, yeah, that looks bad. And Quinn out there nah, it's not as bad as it looks. I was like, okay, dude. And then a few weeks later, I was like, shit, he might be right.
Right.
It's been much better. So that's the thing, is Jordan Lewis, I've wanted to see Jordan Lewis work out more for this team, but he just never really has translated. His game sealing pick against New Orleans several years ago is the signature play of his I can think of.
Right.
And it's I can think of several moments from just last season alone where Anthony Brown, exceeded that. Mm-hmm. And so it's similar build, but more flexibility with Brown of what he's able to do, coming off a career best year, obviously fit well in Quinn's system. So to me, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I would go Brown.
Yeah, I'm gonna tend to agree with you with that aspect, because I've been a Jordan Lewis guy since he came out of since his rookie year, and I always give Jordan Lewis a chance on the outside, because I still to this day think he's a better outside corner than a slot corner, but because of the size, it pigeonholes you. But right now, I would go with Brown as well, just for the fact of the comfortability with the scheme. And I just feel Dan Quinn really gave him confidence, just like you were talking about, DDP, where we all were jumping up and down, fans going off saying, same old Brown, this is the same old thing, gonna happen this year, getting cooked up and destroyed. But I like the way Dan Quinn did it, and I think that's why I love him as the defensive coordinator more than anybody that's on the squad right now, is because he learned, hey, you know what? It wasn't as bad as y'all think. We watching the tape. and we saw a lot of good things, and we think he's going to continue to be good. And he kept him with that confidence and to continue to get him better. But I also feel like Dan Quinn, when he was saying in his press conference and his interviews, DDP, we want to find out what the player is good at and really isolate that and really hone that to make him great. And I think that's what he did with Anthony Brown. He found out what he did really good, put him in the positions, and then you saw how it really materialized this past season. I think year 2 with Quinn is going to be even better because the confidence and then you got, like I said, Kelvin Joseph and those other guys in year 2.
Yeah, no, it's a very valid point. I'm curious what they're going to end up doing, how they're going to change things up. Like, who's going to be the next guy to kind of rise up with that? Because I do think there's going to be another guy or two who kind of takes a leap in Quinn's system now, especially year 2, and with some of the shakeup that they've had. So I'm really interested to see how that translates. I don't know who it's going to be, but I am optimistic that you're going to see growth. As long as you have Quinn, you're going to keep seeing defensive growth, and that's a really good thing. Whether or not McCarthy is the lame duck and we're talking about Sean Payton in a year again, or whether or not it's just like, hey man, we held on to Quinn because Quinn kind of understands he hangs around another year, he might be the guy here.
If you want to be honest, DDP, I think that was the main win. If we're talking about any offseason move that
was
the Cowboys,
the win, yes,
that was the win.
The one.
That was the one win. That was the one win.
Exactly.
That was the one win. If we talking about free agency, draft, yeah, the draft was good, but that was the one key. Because if they would have lost Dan Quinn after all this stuff that's been going on with Dallas this year, that would have just been bad business.
That was the one major thing that made me not feel like this team was just spiraling into the gutter or something.
Right.
Like the draft, the draft, I was pleased with how that shook out. But we're just talking like those early weeks, right? When all this stuff really started going, and it was just boom, 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 like Collins, Cooper, like all these things just kind of rolling out, and you're just like, oh God, oh my God, what is happening? What are they doing? And you're like, oh, okay, good. They held on to Quinn. That's good. That's encouraging. What are they doing over here? Like you just see the next thing, and you're like, come on, I thought you figured it out. Like you pulled out of the tailspin, and now, nope. Okay, we're going back down the hole. All right. But yeah, Quinn, I think is huge for what they're trying to do, and I think he's probably the one thing that I'm most confident in as far as the coaching staff, because I still have questions about Kellen Moore putting together a full game plan and everything. Like I can see the trick plays and the design, and it's like, hey, that's nice. How about a game plan or like solid adjustments? Like how about utilizing these guys to their strengths and actually getting the most out of them instead of, I don't know. I don't even know what happened to the offense late last year, but it just seemed like nothing was working, and it didn't make sense, the calls they were making.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a defensive guy, and I was doubtful. I knew when they first brought Dan Quinn in the very beginning that this is the guy they were going to target, because the Legion of Boom, you know how Jerry Jones is. He loves having the name guys out there. So, but I ain't going to lie. I was like, you know what? Atlanta be soft. Atlanta's soft, and he going to come in here with that softness, and we're going to be soft. So, but after I heard his first interview, DDP, and then I saw it, I was like, I mess with Quinn. I really, excuse my language, I fucks with Quinn. I do. I mess with some Dan Quinn. And then, like I said, we hoping Kellen Moore, as we kind of get ready to end this out, we hoping Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy, because I don't hate on Mike McCarthy. I still think he's a good coach. I just feel like he came to the Dallas Cowboys, and that messed him up. Because when you come to Dallas, they mess you up. So I feel like you said, Kellen Moore is the key, because Dan Quinn showed how you can do making adjustments, putting guys in their positions to be better. That's not what Kellen Moore did, because he had a guy named Tony Pollard. He had weapons, and there were refusals of those guys being used in critical moments. Whereas at Dan Quinn, he didn't do that. He saw those isolated matchups. Let's go and attack this right here and right there. And the success came. Kellen Moore was not doing that with the Amari Coopers and the CeeDee Lambs and the Tony Pollards of the world. It was in the beginning, but then once it was found out, there was no adjustments. And that's where Quinn was doing. But I feel like that's where Quinn, the head coach, and Dan Quinn can come out of him because he's been there and done that. Kellen Moore, not so much. So I think that's why a lot of teams kind of backed off of him and said, we ain't giving you this job right now because the eyes was on you and you kind of choked it. So we hope that kind of comes together this year. It better come together because I'm going to keep it real, dog. The only excitement I have is for that defense. If you want me to keep it real.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. But it felt like by week 6 or 7, we had already seen the peaks and highlights of the season for Kellen Moore, whereas the Cowboys defense, I felt like built and built and built until the playoff game. But
but no, even in that playoff game though, I'm gonna be honest with you though, even in that playoff game, I don't think it was the defense that gave up that game. It was the offense because
there were some really, really bad defensive penalties on like the last.
Randy Gregory, yeah, I know.
Gregory had 2 just absolute ball busters
but that's on Gregory.
You.
That's on Gregory.
Sure,
I'm not going to say that's on Quinn. You feel me?
Sure, but they were still lengthy drives, for sure. But yeah, Gregory was the guilty party. So
yeah, because I mean, even in that game, like I was pissed. But the defense still kept us in it along with Jimmy G because you know how he plays. But the defense still gave us a chance, you feel me? But it was that offensive line and them daggone plays. Kurt Warner busted it out, running the same plays over and over in the deep. You made it easy for the defense to basically shut you down. And there is no way in hell that you came up with that kind of game plan knowing how much this season meant to the Cowboys, the fans, the everything. That's why this felt like they just totally dropped the ball on this. And I'm still, like I said, right now, DDP, I'm still pissed.
I'm not over it. Yeah,
I'm still pissed. I'm not over it. I'm still pissed. And people say, oh, you should let it go. It's a new season. I've let stuff go, and this was the time. Like, you shouldn't have went in there nervous. You should have came in there with a better game plan, and we shouldn't have lost to them damn Niners, and I'm keep on saying that. And I just don't know where we're in our right minds thinking with all that happened last year, all of a sudden we're going to miraculously be a better team this year than last year with parts missing when the Dallas Cowboys don't do good with handling adversity, and it just showed again in these playoffs. So where am I thinking that we're going to be a better team than we were last year? That's all I'm saying.
Sure. And to add on to that, just with one last quick note, we always talk about like how long has it been since they've been to the conference championship? How long has it been since they won 10 games in back-to-back seasons? It's just as long. Like, this team does not win 10 games back-to-back years. So you want to look at it that way. Like, they're working an uphill battle against, a quarter century long trend just to win the division and go back to the playoffs as a 10-win at least team this year. And it's like, yeah, that's how low the bar has gotten. And all the more reason why, like, you had a golden opportunity, full health, and as you could reasonably be. I know Dak had some cleanup surgery and stuff in the off season, but like you had healthy. Basically as reasonably healthy as you could be. The only major part you were missing was Gallup, who had missed so much time in the year anyway that he might as well have not even counted towards your overall health picture.
Right.
You were in that kind of position, and you had home court. You had home field. You had everything that you needed. And you came out and you just took a massive deuce in your own yard. Like that's what it boiled down to. Like you did that, and then you slipped and fell on your face in the deuce. Like that's what that whole playoff game felt like. And like I hate the fact that we're here in July and we're still talking about what happened in January. Like it sucks, but like at the same time, people who say like new season, get past it. It's like, you can't get past it until they show that they've gotten past it.
Right.
Like,
right.
Until we see them actually like perform throughout the season, however that goes. And then if they get to the playoffs, win a playoff game or even 2, then until you see that, you can't really say like they've moved past it. That's what it boils down to. You have to show that you actually can rise to the challenge and overcome it. And some teams never do. Like some teams collapse and don't get back. Like, speaking locally, like the Rangers, they never got back from 2011. One strike away twice from a World Series, and they never got even close to back again. Like, complete crash and burn, whole farm system burned up trying to, basically get the pieces to make another run. And the Mavericks looked like they were in danger of that between 06 and when they finally won the title in 11. Like, honestly, the Tyson Chandler thing kind of saved their ass, because they were very much in danger of just complete collapse and like obscurity forever, had the Tyson thing not come about the way it had. And then that instead ended up being the catalyst that took them to a new height. So yeah, it's crazy, but at least in those two circumstances, you're talking about a team that was in a championship series, in the game or in a series. We're not talking about the first round of a playoff game. We're not talking about divisional playoffs. That'd be like if the Mavericks were favored against the Jazz and then lost, and we're here sitting like, well, we got to see if they can rise to the challenge. That's how low the bar is. Can you overcome losing a playoff game people thought you would win? That's the problem. That we got to have that discussion about the Cowboys, I feel like says a lot about where the team's at.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I don't really I don't really have confidence in it. We'll see. But Dak said, "Hey, we're eager to be out there to prove a lot of people wrong." I made a tweet say, "Yeah, we heard that," and I heard some other people say, "You ain't heard that from Dak," and this or that. I have heard that. I have heard the mantra of that. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard the mantra of that about the Cowboys, is that, oh, we're here to shut up all the critics. We're here to have everybody be quiet. We're tired of doing the same thing year in and year out. I don't want to hear that no more, dog. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all have opportunities all the time, and it's the same thing. It's either the offense failed, the defense fails, to something that's fundamentally wrong. I know what it is, but we ain't gonna talk about it because we ain't get off there. But we know what the factor is. We know what the factor is, and that, my friends, is the main reason why this always does what it does, no matter what you think.
Yep. Oh, dude, I somehow almost forgot to mention, it's totally passed anyway because we already talked all the Mavericks shit. It is the anniversary of Luka Doncic Day, when the Mavericks drafted Luka Doncic. It was 5 years ago. Yeah, today's the day.
Damn, you said 5 years ago it went that fast?
Yeah, it was 2018 draft. So yeah,
Yeah. Dang, it seemed forever, dog.
Yeah,
that seemed forever ago. But boy, hey, let's say this.
For the Mavericks, how they climbed out of their own obscurity.
Ooh, that was the one. Because I ain't gonna lie, when I remember when I first heard about Luka, I hadn't seen anything from him, DDP, no nothing. And I heard that they were talking about this kid, and I seen the size of him, and I seen how big he was, and I was like, hold up, man. I said, here we go. Look, DDP, my first thought was like, here we go, dog, with this, man. Man, this dude ain't even gonna be, man, bro. I'm tired of this dude. This always jumping over here and thinking this is gonna be the next great. Then I watched one game. I said, get this dude.
Yep.
For real.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? For one time, I said, get this dude. I only had to watch one game. I was like, okay, yeah, he the truth.
Yeah. No, for sure. So all the Cowboys got to do is get a generational talent, and
we got one in Michael Parsons.
Yeah. Football. You honestly probably need more than, maybe not generational, but you need a lot of depth. Basketball, you can kind of take over a game and everything a little more easily.
Right.
But yeah, you just got to get a couple of those sensational pieces and then not screw it up. Build around them and pieces that complement them. Dallas is still trying to figure that out. The Mavericks, still trying to figure that out with Luka. And I actually think they're finally maybe doing a good job, because up until now, we've been looking at this like, I know he likes these guys and that he's friends with them, but like, they don't really complement the type of elite level players that fit with his skill set, right? So maybe they'll do something good here and keep building on it, and we'll see what happens.
Well, all I can say is this: Dallas did more with less. So Cowboys kind of learn from these Mavs. I ain't saying the Mavs got it all together, but like I said, they did more with less.
Yep.
They went to the Western Conference Finals. You feel me? We didn't think this was happening. I feel like they're still in there. They were still out there trying to be active to get the team better, even though they happened to lose Brunson. And I just feel like with that, the Cowboys need to look at that and say, what are we doing wrong here?
Yep. I agree. They got to make some tough questions, come up with some answers, and the problem is they're making tough decisions without really showing viable logic behind it. It's not like they're clearing the way for certain things. Like they're just kind of like, all right, and turn over this, bring in this. Like, what's the rationale? Don't worry about it.
They ain't in no rush, DDP. You said it
Yeah.
last week. I think we talked about it. They don't have no sense of urgency, and that's the
No.
problem. That's the main problem with this is they don't have a sense of urgency. I don't see the sense of urgency. When you see these other teams that are going to the Super Bowl, the reason why they're aggressive, they have a sense of urgency. They're saying, we're not going to just sit there and wait year in and year out and hope. That's what the Cowboys, they're hoping it happens. They're hoping it works. And if it doesn't, oh well, we'll do it next year because we're young and we have all these young players and we got time. No, dog. What's up, my dog Thurston? No, you don't. The sense of urgency that you don't have is the reason why this team still goes in that freaking tailspin circle. There's no sense of urgency because there's nobody, once again, telling the Jones, we got to get this done.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, so whatever.
Whew. Good times.
Good times, man. Good times. Good long times.
Oh, man.
But, hey, it is what it is. But we getting ready to bounce up off here, man. Another good one. More Mavs, more Cowboys talk coming around the corner. Got anything you want to drop in before we head up out of here, big dog?
Nothing too crazy going on at the moment. See, I know in a couple of weeks, let me see here. The 27th, it's a Wednesday, would be the show 3 weeks from now. I will be out of town on vacation for that. So for that week, we'll have a blip in Positively Relentless. But other than that, I don't have anything major going on. I just got that 1 week long vacation. I was like,
that's your normal vacation, right? Your normal vacation.
So we went last year on it. Usually January is when I do my big vacation each year, but we went last summer with the wife's family to a different cabin, this one up in the mountains in Colorado, and had a good time. So we're going again this year. I don't know if it's going to be part of like the new annual thing that we just do each summer or whatever, but we're going at least again this year. Had a lot of fun last year with it, so running it back again, and we'll see. But all the same, it's good to get away and clear the head a little bit. And worst place to be than a cabin in the mountains. It's always a really good place for me to kind of recharge mentally and emotionally and all that.
I mean, I'm going to incorporate that in my life this year. I'm going to do that same type of thing. Number one, Colorado's beautiful. I was actually going to live out there a while back. Aurora, Colorado was where I was going to live. So I actually visited out there numerous times, and it was beautiful out there. Everything that they say about it, Colorado, is true. So I envy you in that aspect, but definitely going to jump in that thing where you're talking about taking that week where it's just get away from everything, just kind of recharge your batteries, come back and get stronger. So I'm in that same boat where that's going to happen, to where it's not just the work thing, it's just the relaxed thing.
Yep, that's the way to do it. If you can do that once or somehow twice in a year, makes all the difference in the world. But yeah, I think it's needed maintenance to do it at least once a year.
Yep, for sure. Well, hey, man, another episode of Positively Relentless EP 11. We got 12 coming up in the books. Make sure y'all stay tuned. We're going to have more Mavericks talk. We're going to have more Cowboys talk. More things will be coming in the news. So make sure you tune in. Give both of our channels a big like. DDP over there with the Dallas Prospect killing over there, and myself with Big Game James. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us all those good things, man, and make sure you just continue to tune in. We got some more good stuff coming up. You see, we got the dual channels. As you see, more things will be coming in the more we kind of get familiar with this right here. So just stay tuned. Keep on giving us good thumbs up. Give us likes, follows, all that. And we'll be talking to you soon, man. Big Game James, DDP. We out.